Hi, my name's Keith Cooper. In this video I'm going to look at steps you can take to improve the quality of your printing, whether it's printing photos or printing artwork. Goes for any printer, although it's easier with higher end printers. This particular one here, this is a Canon Pro 200, so any of the better printers, Canon or Epson, just because this happens to be what I'm testing at the moment again, this is a process that you should perhaps look at if you're not happy with the sort of prints you're getting. To improve the process, and I've got lots of other videos that look at aspects of printing, and you really need to know where you are now. What's the problem? What is it? How can you say you want to improve your printing if you don't actually know where you are at the moment? One potential way of doing this, I've suggested to a few people, is to make a workflow list. This is to make a list of your photographic workflow. Now you can make it as detailed or as cursory as you like. I'm going to assume that it starts with the photography. We can gloss over that one at the moment, although I will come back to it. It's really about how do you edit your images? What do you do to edit your images? How do you change them? Do you use printing software? Do you use the editing software to print? So I might print from Photoshop, or I might export the image to Canon print layout or the Epson print layout software to do the printing. That makes a difference. It's really about working out where you are now, what process you take. Your monitor, do you calibrate it? Now, if you can get good quality monitors that just happen to be fairly well set up from scratch out of the box. This one here, this BenQ one, is fairly good, but I would still want to calibrate it for use. Now, calibrators, that's a monitor calibrator. I've written stuff and got articles and videos about that. What I would say, if you're a member of a camera club and you think, well, it's a bit expensive getting a monitor calibrator because they're not that cheap. Buy one for the club, share it round. You only need use it every few months. Won't be a problem. Next bit, so let's assume you've got your monitor calibrated. Have you got it calibrated correctly? Have you got it not too bright? Have you got the settings good? That's something to have a look at. Next up, the printer. Are you printing with ICC profiles? Now these are data files of the characteristics of the paper and the printer. You use them with more advanced print software, so both the free Epson and the free Canon software will support the profiles. You'll need, ideally, to get the best results for colour, and I'm going to stick mainly to colour here. To get the best results for it, you really do need proper profiles. Now, these profiles, some paper suppliers will supply them. You can make your own. Once again, this is a Calibrite Colour Checker Studio. It was the old i1 Studio, and before that the Colour Monkey. That makes perfectly good profiles. Once again, you can calibrate monitors with it as well. Once again though, it's a bit on the pricey side for an individual if you're just using it occasionally. So I always say, if you're a member of a camera club, get together and buy one of these. Share it around for people. Make profiles. Make everyone's prints better. So that's the state of where are you now. There's one other question you should ask yourself. If you've been doing printing for a bit, how many papers have you got? Now, be honest here. How many different types of papers have you got? Something I come across time and time again is that it's far easier just to buy a new paper than perhaps address the fundamentals in your photography, your editing, your colour management, your whole workflow. So if you've got more than, let's be generous and say 5 or 6 different papers, take that as a hint that you're perhaps addressing the wrong problem, and go back to a more basic set of papers. Now, I've looked at this, other videos of paper choices, what papers I generally suggest starting with. The papers that I use when I'm evaluating and testing a new printer. I don't get loads of papers. Now, because of all the testing I've got, I've got rather a lot of papers. In fact, I don't have an accurate count of it, but it is dozens and dozens of different papers that I've got, most of which I'll probably never use. Yeah. I do use them for testing sometimes, but yeah, that's my excuse. What's your excuse for having lots of different papers? Be honest with yourself, is it a good one? Anyway, that is the where you are now, your workflow list. Then think about doing some basic testing. Can you print an accurate test image? Now, the nice thing about the test image is that you can print the test image irrespective of your monitor setup and your editing setup. The test image lets you work out whether your printer setup is okay, whether your profile is right, whether the paper is correct for the printer. Remember, not all papers work with all printers. Some printers work better with some different papers. So if you get a new printer, don't just assume that all your old paper choices are automatically the correct paper choices. They may not be optimal for that new printer. Something people tend to gloss over a bit. I can see why you might have several boxes of an old paper and you think, well, I don't really want to waste all these boxes of paper. With a profile, you may well be able to use it, but don't automatically assume that old papers will transfer over to a new printer. I know quite a lot of people who've just tried again, getting good prints from a particular paper, when actually it would have been best to admit that, well, that paper's just not very good with that particular printer. The testing, and this is a test image, as I say, this one's downloadable from the Northlight Images website. This is a black and white one, but as I say, I'm not really addressing black and white here. This is predominantly colour printing. That image, the article on the website where you can download it from, has an explanation of all these different panels that are in the image. You can see that because I've set this monitor up, it's actually, I hope on the video, relatively close between the screen and this. But then I've set that up specially so that hopefully it looks like that. There you go, that's a test image. That's another type of test image. I've got loads of them you can pick. Pick one, learn its details, get a good print from it. Because if you can't manage to do a good quality test image, then what hope have you got for your own images? These test images are created specifically for testing printing. There are all kinds of features in them which will show up potential problems and issues. So you really need to take the time, and it doesn't need to be that long, but print this, get it right. Because if you're happy with this not looking right, are you happy with your own pictures not coming out right? Which I'm assuming for the whole point of why you're looking at this process is because you want to make your pictures better. Right, let's say we've done this. I can get a perfect print. I'm happy with how the print looks. There's two different papers here. That's a gloss paper, that's a matte paper. They will look different. The test image does not look the same on every paper. So study the papers carefully and see how the images look different, because the different contrast ratios, the different colour gamuts, things like that, they look different. Don't think that the test image should come out the same on every single paper or printer that you use. It doesn't work that way. It's there to test the whole process of printing. Right, so we move on to get an image of your own. I'd say go for one that you like, one that isn't particularly challenging to start. So if you've got a really powerful sunset with lots of really strong colours, that can take quite a bit of skill in getting the editing right so it prints. Because remember, above all, the screen is not the print. Print is not the screen, and you can never ever get a precise version of the screen on the print. They're two different things. This one you see by reflected light. This one is emitting light. They are fundamentally different. You have to accept that. Don't keep going along saying, well, my print doesn't look like my screen. Well, who cares? Does the print look okay? When it comes down to it, if the print doesn't look okay, doesn't matter what the screen looks like. In a way, it's saying, back to film days, don't worry that the print doesn't look right. The negatives look absolutely superb. Who cares what your negatives look like? Nobody, obviously. And it should be the same in some respects for looking at a screen. Right, you're printing your own image. Is it okay? Be quite critical of it. If the colour looks wrong, there are several potential causes for that. It could be your profiling. It could be you need a better profile. You need to make a bit more work on making your profile. It could be that it just doesn't work particularly well on that paper. You've got a paper printer combination which doesn't work with some of the colours you've got. But you should have a fairly good idea of what you're capable of because you've perfected printing a test print. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to you. If you can see you're getting problems with colour, then go back to your colour management, go back to your screen, go back to your test image and look again at that loop that you've got everything right. Okay, colour's quite a complex one because every print will look different. Every paper, every printer will look subtly different. What about detail? Well, my prints, they're just not sharp enough. Well, it's highly unlikely it's a print problem. It is far more likely to be a photography problem or an editing problem. That shunts it out of the remit of that. If the print doesn't look sharp enough, well, if you look at the screen probably won't look sharp enough either. If you look critically enough, that's a photography problem or an editing problem. What about the picture? You go, well, I don't like the look of the picture. I don't like the composition. Well, that's an easy one to answer. It's your fault entirely. You took the photo. So, you know, take more photos, take better photos. Rubbish photos tend to make rubbish prints. I've got lots of rubbish prints and lots of rubbish photos. I just don't show them. If you want people to think you're a better photographer, make sure they see your better looking pictures. It's not a crafty trick at all. If I've got rubbish pictures, then I'll use them as a teaching exercise or something like that. But just because I'm a professional photographer doesn't mean that all the pictures I take are great. No, I take rubbish photos as well. I hope that I take enough great ones to make up for it, and certainly enough good ones that clients will be happy and they'll actually pay me to do the photography, which is the whole aim of it for myself. But if you're just doing this out of interest and your pictures don't look good enough, well, go back to the taking the pictures. Oh, and the other thing, the same way as buying loads and loads of different papers to try out, don't think a new camera will probably make the difference. Don't think a new lens will probably make the difference. It can on occasions make a difference, but most of the time that's a deflection. In the same way as buying loads of papers because you're not happy with the prints comes out, buying new cameras, new lenses is the same way that you're perhaps not happy with your photography. No, the real cause is your own photography skills. I regularly find deficiencies in my own photography skills and I try and work and I try and fix them. You have to be willing to look at yourself quite critically on occasions. Not too much, because otherwise you can then think nothing's worth doing. But don't blame the printers, don't blame your lens, don't blame a lack of new camera when it is something that you yourself can perhaps fix. And that is the gist of it. What is the problem you've got in your prints? Know where you are. Use some test images to find out where you can possibly go to, and then just practice. The same way as if I had put in more practice, I would be a better piano player than I am. And it's not that difficult, really. Anyway, I hope this video has been of some interest. Please do ask questions. It's people's questions that often give me ideas for new videos. And now that I've moved out of the kitchen and cleared my office out so I can actually film in here, I'm going to try and do a wider range of videos and cover different topics that people might be interested. So thanks again. Please do subscribe to the channel and thank you.